It's an honor to present to you the project of Philippine Normal University Visayas in the preservation of indigenous knowledge on mangrove protection and conservation, a climate action. This is a community-based ESD. Cadiz City is a gateway and the premier center of agro-fishery resources of Negros Island in the Philippines. Because of the strategic location of the city with a wide and rich island and marine resources. However, in November 2013, during the Super Typhoon Haiyan, the city was heavily damaged and around 20,000 homes were devastated, especially along coastal area, and destroyed almost half of the total area of mangroves covering the city's coast. This is the mangrove area ravaged by Typhoon Haiyan during its occurrence in 2013, which caused the endemic marine species to diminish, and the diminishing marine resources served as the main source of livelihood and food supply of most of the fisherfolk community in the area. There are a small number of mangrove trees that remain standing at the site prior to its rehabilitation in 2013, as you can see in this picture. PNU Visayas saw the need for replanting and rehabilitate the area and sought the responses of the fisherfolks to encourage cooperation. A survey was conducted to benchmark the project's implementation needs. First, an accounting for the number of remaining mangrove trees still growing and listings of mangrove species that thrive in the area was done by the students with the assistance of the fisherfolks. The survey result was laid down to the leader of the fisherfolks and set the plan for the rehabilitation project. In order to encourage the joint venture of the fisherfolks to the project, the implementer reorganized them and laid down all the plans to them and encouraged their contribution to the objectives of the project, letting them feel their involvement and ownership of the planned project. For PNU Visayas students, in order to participate in the rehabilitation project, a series of mangrove conservation management awareness campaign was conducted before they were sent to the project site for the replanting of the on-site nursery-grown Avicennia marina or Bungalon propagules, the species that can thrive in the area basing from the survey result that was conducted. The proponent headed the lectures for the awareness campaign, and fisherfolks were invited to speak and share their stories on the importance of the mangrove to the fishermen and the people living along coastal area. Students on project site planting the mangrove species Avicennia marina, the only species that can thrive in the area, together with the fisherfolks and the other faculty members of the Philippine Normal University. Fisherfolks and students that doing the replanting of the mangrove seedlings at the rehabilitation site. This is actually done bi-monthly. The rehabilitated site in 2015, as you can see in the picture, there are the flourishing mangroves after 2 years of replanting the area. So this picture shows the fisherfolks and the residents of Purok, Kakahuyan, who were actually the implementers together with the proponent. They started the mangrove rehabilitation project. The project sites serve as the outdoor laboratory of pre-service teachers, especially the general science major students, for monitoring and evaluation of the growth and development of each mangrove planted and their survival rate. Factors affecting the slow growth of some species that are was also considered. This mangrove rehabilitation project is dedicated to reversing the degradation and loss of mangrove forest wetlands and their associated coastal ecosystems in the city of Cadiz, Philippines, that was greatly destroyed by the Typhoon Haiyan. So in this picture, PNU Visayas students who pioneered this project together with the fisherfolks who worked hand in hand with them for the management and the rehabilitation of the project to be successful. Moving forward for the project's sustainability, we need the young generations to get involved in this project and continue the legacy of the fisherfolks. Thus, PNU Visayas with the local government units of Cadiz City launched Stories to Write, Read and Tell about the Mangrove. Sa katong ganda mo kita mahibaluan in our dialect. which aims to develop instructional materials about mangrove protection and conservation for pupils in the elementary schools along coastal areas. In order for us to connect the Mangrove Rehabilitation Project to the school community through the Reflect, Share, Act method of implementing community-based ESD, so PNU Visayas discussed the Sustainable Development Goals on a series of workshops to let them identify the specific SDGs that is addressed by the Rehabilitation Project. This is actually for the fisherfolks to have the in-depth knowledge of SDGs and prepare them to become teachers of teachers on the indigenous practices of mangrove protection and conservation, which will be the content of the reading materials to be developed by the teachers. Her, the women member of the fisherfolks organization, together with the male fisherfolks, sharing their indigenous knowledge on mangrove management and ecosystem conservation to be used as content of the reading materials. So it's now time for the fisherfolks to share their knowledge, with which they were very confident to speak and tell the teachers the characteristics of each organisms and on how to protect and conserve these marine organisms in the mangrove ecosystem. Identifying and naming mangrove continues in the local language, sharing it to the teachers for the content of the instructional materials. This fisherfolk leader received the award as the Outstanding People's Organization Chairman of Cadiz City. The project helps capacitate the fisherfolks to become leaders in the field of mangrove protection and conservation and share what they did for the success of the rehabilitation project on the different fora and conferences they were invited to share their success story. Teachers underwent seminar workshops in the use of instructional materials at Daga Elementary School, Cadiz City. This is actually the adapted school wherein we were going to, or we first implemented the booklet as instructional materials. So the series of discussions continue on the integration of the instructional materials for reading among teachers on another school, and that is at Manapla Elementary School. On this illustration or this picture, you can see the different instructional materials for reading developed by pre-service teachers with the content shared by the fisherfolks. So the printing and reproduction of the developed instructional materials actually done by us and the students. So reading materials implementation at Manapla Elementary School, teachers receive the booklet that contains the indigenous knowledge from the fisherfolks for implementation. For the actual class integration, Dr. Santillana take over the class for observation by the grade school teachers on how the integration of the booklet will be done, or the instructional materials will be done. Then the class was handled by Mrs. Gonzalez, a grade 1 teacher, as the reading material was integrated in mathematics. Pupils were called to read the booklets they liked as application to their math and science class. They were asked then the implication of the story to them. This is actually a way of harnessing not only their reading skills but discovering the importance of the mangrove. This is the Reading Enhancement Program, the instructional material used for reading by the early graders to enhance their skills and help develop their values in mangrove protection and conservation. Applying what pupils learn from the booklets through the lenses, with the assistance and guidance of their fisherfolk parents, a legacy they will leave behind their children about the mangrove protection and conservation. This project is not yet over, for there is still a wide area of coast for mangrove reforestation and biodiversity conservation in Cadiz City. There are still hundreds of fisherfolks to organize, several schools to instructional materials to share, and many more stories about the mangrove to write. This is the comparison of the mangrove site in 2013. This is how it was. Then This is now the mangrove rehabilitation area at the present year or at the present time. The project was cited in the UNESCO journal entitled Unite for a Sustainable Future, Building Rapport, Community-Based Education for Sustainable Development on July 2019. This was also cited on a guidebook entitled Reflect, Share, Act for Community-Based Education for Sustainable Development. This is one of the 5 stories on ESD from other countries that was cited by UNESCO Bangkok, which was actually published on April 2021. The mangrove forest is the legacy of the fisherfolks, and I want this to be passed on to the next generation. This project is still in the process of establishing a school-based nursery for children to nurture the mangrove seedlings for planting at the rehabilitation site. The reading materials will serve as a path towards their understanding of the importance of mangrove protection and conservation, which is a great contribution in climate change mitigation. This project bridges the fisherfolk community to the school, likewise the school to the community. The indigenous knowledge the fisherfolk shared and used in the reading materials will be cascaded to the children that will be preserved in books and other reading materials to be used by the teachers in the different schools within Kada City and in the neighboring towns and cities. So ladies and gentlemen, this is PNU Visayas Community-Based ESD, delivering quality education through the lens of climate action. Thank you very much, everyone.